routine checkup, my primary care physician suggested that I undergo an ultrasound to search for cysts on my kidneys. Since polycystic kidney disease runs in one side of my family, it was recommended that I consent to this test since the chances of genetically inheriting PKD are considerably high. In anticipation of this test, the topic of organ transplantation as an option for a potentially complicated future comes to mind. Sadly, having a kidney available when I may need it is not so simple. There are factors that affect the allocation of donor organs such as availability, compatibility, and priority. These factors aside, there are ethical considerations, since this becomes a question of who does and does not receive a second chance to live a relatively healthy life in the face of such dire conditions. Naturally, and undoubtedly, I would like to be taken care of if I ever needed a donor kidney. However, setting self-preservation aside, there are certainly arguments that there are circumstances in which other patients should receive priority above me in the donation process. This is where many of the tough questions concerning organ donation exist. Should the younger of two patients be considered above the older applicant? Should those who inherit kidney complications be given priority over those who inflict damage upon themselves? Should the order in which people have been placed on the waiting list be the most important factor in determining who will receive a donation next?
We often encounter various challenges and complications concerning organ transplantation, and as a nurse, I have the responsibility of explaining the complex process of allocation and transplantation to patients, donors, and their families. Religious beliefs can often interfere with the process of transplantation. While most religions support the procedure, some religions such as Shinto believe that the dead body is impure, and thus injuring a dead body is considered a crime. Families of donors and patients also play a huge role in decisions regarding organ transplantation. One issue that often arises is when relatives of the possible donor, particularly the parents, do not agree with organ transplantation and attempt to convince their child or family member not to partake in the process. Age is another factor that can often interfere with organ transplants. However, we advise all possible donors that while age and medical history is always considered, no one should assume that they are too young or too old to donate an organ. Becoming an organ donor is a rare opportunity, and we encourage everyone to make a decision and discuss it with their family.
It is my duty as a doctor to uphold the values of my patients and to enhance their quality of life. It is important not to oversee the issues that may arise when encountering organ transplantation. In organ transplantation, it is apparent that there is a great disparity between organ demand and the lack of organ supply. Fundamentally, it is the catalyst that fuels the development of further ethical, clinical, and professional issues. This has prompted discussion regarding organ allocation and the selection of a suitable candidate. Organ allocation is often based upon maximum benefit, social valuation, moral deservingness, prejudice, fair innings, first come, first served, and medical urgency. All things considered, organ allocation is subjective and dependent upon an individual's role in the organ transplantation. This ultimately questions the validity of organ transplantation. Furthermore, in the effort to increase organ transplantations, controversy associated with donation after cardiac death has surfaced. In simplest terms, cardiac death is when the heart stops beating. Thus, it is vital that organ transplantation occurs almost immediately after death, before the lack of blood circulation inhibits the functionality of the organs. In order to meet this criteria, some healthcare practitioners may be compelled to violate the dead donor rule, which states that donation should not cause or hasten death. In doing so, they not only breach their own bioethical principle of non-maleficence, but also their patient's autonomy. From my own experience as a doctor, who deals with both organ donors and organ recipients, it is also difficult to reason between the preservation of life for one patient and the demand of an organ for another patient. The subject matter also touches on the debate between cadaver donor transplantations and that of living donors. Especially as a health professional, it is my duty to act with beneficence and adhere to patient consent. This leads to the question, is it right to participate in an organ transplantation by which the associated risks may potentially compromise the health of the donor? More alarmingly is the establishment of organ trafficking. This is prevalent in poorer regions of the world who thrive on economic inequality and when there is limited access to cadaveric organs. As a medical professional, I can guarantee you that no one benefits in this situation. If anything, organ sale only amplifies the exploitation of the less fortunate and the stature of the callous doctors and entrepreneurs involved. It is also a blatant neglect of the patient's health due to the lack of quality control and care. I have personally seen how organ transplantation has the capacity to change lives for the better, but that isn't to say that there aren't any issues involved.
I have worked for the Australian Organ and Tissue Authority for over 25 years, and throughout my time I have handled many cases which has ended in tragic consequences. I have witnessed the death of so many young Australians and the heartbreak which has rippled throughout the community. This is because in Australia we currently implement the opt-in model where an individual must explicitly consent to the donation of their organs once deceased. This results in the deterioration of hundreds of Australians each year, costing the Australian health system millions of dollars. So few Australians register to donate their organs because registering is a lengthy process and is not easily accessible. If Australia adopted the opt-out methods, lives would be saved. This model shifts the default so that an individual's silence or non-registration counts as consent. The opt-out approach can be justified in such circumstances, although it needs to be ethically improved. To be ethically justified, this policy would require vigorous efforts to ensure the public's understanding of the options they face as individuals, as well as a reliable, easy, and non-burdensome mechanism to use as an opt-out. There is a tremendous gap between the number of organs donated each year and the number of patients awaiting a transplant, so Australia must adopt an opt-out model like many European countries. However, this raises the concern, is such a policy ethically acceptable? Would it be adopted and would it be effective in Australia?